Now then, well, you know what they say, once bitten, twice shy. Well, yeah, I'm going to ignore that for tonight, because I'm going to do another bit of I've been moved to do another bit of a film review. I haven't been to the pictures last night, and music related, obviously, to go with this channel. And this is the movie Becoming Led Zeppelin, which was released a couple of weeks ago, I think, 2 or 3 weeks ago now, and it's doing the rounds in some cinemas, although in some it's had a fairly brief airing, and then it's not been that well supported, I understand. Certainly that's the story from my part of the world anyway. But anyway, so what's it like? Well, it's a documentary, so it's different from the last film I reviewed, thankfully, a biopic, which I always struggle with. Very few biopics I've enjoyed, but this is documentary style, and I've got to say, it's straight ahead documentary. You know what, I've forgotten the name of the director, Bernard McNaughton, something like that. And he's played it very, very straight, and essentially the film, it shows a little bit of the origins of the 4 band members, of course, John Bonham, Robert Plant, John Paul Jones, and the man who went on to create Led Zeppelin, Jimmy Page. It shows a little bit about their origins, particularly the sort of context of post-war, ration-book, austere Britain, and they sort of contrasted that with America, you know, which was much more vibrant. Films, cars, music, rock and roll, birth of rock and roll, all of that sort of stuff. And it followed a little bit of that, and it focused particularly. This was a really good bit. It focused on the key influences of the 4 band members, and the way it was done was really those band members talking about those influences. Now, so the whole film involved that sort of format. Interviews with Jimmy Page, John Paul Jones, and Robert Plant. But of course, John Bonham died way back in 1980, I think. So, but thankfully they'd found some old, an old recorded interview. Apparently he did very, very few interviews anyway, but they'd found an old interview from sometime during the 70s, I guess, and used that as best they could. But so they talked about their influences. Robert Plant talked about Sonny Boy Williamson, and we've seen footage of him. Jimmy Page talked about Lonnie Donegan and the birth of skiffle, and how that opened the door for lots of possibilities and musicians in this side of the Atlantic. John Paul Jones, who was great, I've got to say. He really come across as well. They all came across well, actually, to be fair. But John Paul Jones came across very well. His main influence on one of them, Little Richard, and John Bonham, the sort of jazz drummers of the time, Gene Krupa particularly, Buddy Rich, people like that. And then there was a bit of a phase of the film on their early career. Bonham and Plant become friends very, very early on at a young age, and in 1 or 2 sort of fairly obscure or very obscure bands in the West Midlands area, while at the same time Jimmy Page and John Paul Jones are much more high level sort of activity, if you like, as session musicians on the London scene. And then of course in the Yardbirds, and it was the breakup of the Yardbirds, of course, which inspired Jimmy Page to form Led Zeppelin. And so this whole film is about that formation and about the first year of Led Zeppelin's career. Their first album, Led Zeppelin 1, as we all know it, early in '69, was it March, and then later in the same year, Led Zeppelin 2. And the film, quite simply and quite brilliantly, focuses on the music, and they've dug up some quite a few recordings from their American tour. Don't want to spoil the film, but you know, it shows how Jimmy Page, particularly with the help of their pretty uncompromising manager Peter Grant, gained control of the music, gained control of their own art. Didn't let the record companies interfere, and I think they knew that Jimmy Page knew certainly they were building something special here, and the film really from this point on lets the music do the talking. There are extended clips, pretty much the whole song often from that very first American tour. Really brilliant. The sound was fantastic. I understand in the IMAX cinemas the sound is even better, but you know, in my cinema I went to see it in, brilliant sound. So although it'll be probably out on DVD before too long, I guess, or on the telly on BBC4 or something, but if you get a chance to see it on the big screen, definitely worth it. And it just, I think for me, I mean, I was into Zeppelin at the time, up until 72, and I sort of drifted off for them, but I still think their first four albums are just absolute stone cold classics, particularly 1, 2 and 4 for me. But I've done a separate video ages ago ranking the Zeppelin albums, but you know, if I'd forgotten or there was any doubt about how special this band were, how there were four huge yet complementary talents, how Jimmy Page was the ultimate, I think I read somewhere someone called him a sonic architect. He knew the sound he was going for and he took control of that. John Paul Jones, a sublime musician and arranger. John Bonham with his sort of primal drumming, absolutely unique. And then Robert Plant, who was only the second choice vocalist for the band actually, but brought this element which made the whole just, even though the parts themselves were all absolutely high level musicians, the sum of those parts was exponentially bigger. Absolutely superb band. And one of the real nice things about the film for me was in the interviews, you know, just the sort of respect, possibly bordering on love they had for each other. You could see the joy in their faces, particularly when they were listening to the recorded interview with John Bonham, but they were each talking in such positive ways about the musical contribution of the others, and that's not often the case. These sort of tales are often filled with acrimony and jealousy and all sorts of things, but no, a really nicely made documentary. You'd struggle to say it was high art, you know, there was nothing particularly innovative about the film. It was just absolutely well constructed, and whether you're a Zeppelin fan, just a music fan, whether you're too young to have really gotten them first time round, this film is definitely worth seeing if you can see it on the big screen. For those of you who are aware of and remember all the tales of debauchery and sex, drugs and rock and roll, this film just doesn't go there at all, really. Not at all, well, not really, it just doesn't go there. It's all about the music. It's all the better for that. And so we'll go out with that, of course, the opening track which featured in the film. I mean, they featured not only their best known tracks, but some of the ones, the lesser known ones, some of those first two albums. Well, that's the opening track from Led Zeppelin-1. That was Good Time, Bad Times. And we're going to go out with, I think, one of my favourites, I think, off Led Zeppelin 2, if I just adjust that. And this is Ramble On. So that was just a quick one. See you next time. Yeah, I'll leave you with Ramble On from Led Zeppelin 2. The film is Becoming Led Zeppelin. Go and see it, definitely worthwhile.
Leaves are falling all around. 10 hours on my way, but still I'm much obliged.